Hi everyone, welcome to FilmDirt. Let's take another look at V, shall we? And talk about V the series, which originally aired 1985. I've reviewed the previous two miniseries of V on this channel. Help yourselves to my summary of those. Those two are much better than this series, and I think we all know the fate of this follow-up weekly series. The budget was cut considerably. The dip in quality and budget really does show. There's a lot of stock footage peppered throughout this entire series, and I think it's 19 episodes in all. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, it's 19 in all, and a 20th wasn't filmed, but it was scripted apparently. Now, I have actually sat down and watched all of these in turn, and I don't know how I feel about it because I love V so much. I think it's a fantastic series, and I love the two limited miniseries. But this was almost disappointing because when you really like the miniseries so much, and then you're faced with this, it's just a shame that it kind of petered out. And really, you got to think, what if? What if Kenneth Johnson was allowed to stay on? And the network actually had the budget to entice him to continue. I did a little digging, doing my research before I review anything. I do try and find out what happened in production, and it seems the original plan was for the two-part limited miniseries. They were roughly 1.5 hours each, so pretty much movies in their own right, really. Two of those, and then the conclusion to V was the following year, which would be another 2 episodes. The original network, which was NBC, was very happy with the immediate success of the first miniseries. I don't have the official published viewing figures in front of me, but apparently it was really successful, and NBC decided in their wisdom that they would reduce the budget of the follow-up series. And not only that, but they would stretch it out to 3 episodes. Kenneth Johnson wanted to do it properly and produce something of a reasonable level of quality. And for whatever reason, he felt that he couldn't do that with the budget he was given. So he stepped down, unfortunately. And having said that, I really do like the final battle. There was a slight dip in quality and production value, but overall, I think it was really good. There were some really good set pieces, good moments that really did elevate it to just being a dumb follow-up, just done on the quick. Ham Tyler, played by Michael Ironside, he had some fantastic moments and was a badass. The unmasking of John, that was a fantastic moment, and I called it before the trailer moments. Those few moments were massive, and they're the moments you remember. So there was a few of those that isn't really carried over to the weekly series, which was the impact of the red dust and the armor-piercing Teflon coated, I think they called it, this special ammo that Ham Tyler and his friend Chris introduces to the story. And also the voices of the visitors have lost that reverb sound effect. I can go along with that because maybe they're adapting to their new environment so they can save on their budget further by not having to maintain that sound effect. So whilst I was rewatching this show, I watched it on the current Warner Brothers DVD, which really does need serious restoration. It's almost like they've forgotten about it because of the lack of demand. I can't see any fan movements online asking for the show to be restored to 4K or remastered or anything like that. I don't think anyone really cares either way. We might as well just disappear. But at least they actually released it on DVD. So as I said before, there's lots of recycled stock footage here and recycled footage from previous shots in the miniseries. It's usually the VFX shots of the Skyfighters, which originally I thought they were really well done. And you can hear some people commenting on the quality of 80s visual effects where you have to composite spacecrafts onto daylight Earth settings. And of course that's always tricky because you're going to have matte lines. And when you really think about it, think about what compositing actually was for all film and TV around this time in the 80s. It is actually just exposing 2 or more layers of film through the camera at the same time, shining a light through it to create a combined image. So already the system is flawed. And when you think of your classic movies and shows back then that actually had to incorporate this, it's amazing they actually got it as real looking as they did. And in the first miniseries, you've got your hero shots that actually do look really good. That shot of Julie shooting up at the spacecraft with Diana aboard. And take another look at that shot. I think it's composited really well and the effect is convincing. But then you see a similar shot in the same scene where they haven't really spent as much time. I think it's the retreat scene where you see the fighters fly away, and they couldn't really apply the same time to get the shot seamless. And that's what I mean, where they had to pick and choose where they put their time, because no doubt the lack of budget was telling even for the miniseries. And it's a fantastic shot, I love that. And that's another trailer moment that I mentioned. And also in the rush to get this show done, I think they've taken liberties with some continuity, even within the show, not just forgetting about what's set up in the 2 miniseries. I think it's episode 3 which had to be withheld because some stronger horror aspects in that episode. If you recall, that was the one where there was some kind of lizard burrowing underground and it was eating people from there. And this was the episode where Kyle Bates introduced himself, which they reshot for episode 4. And when episode 3 was reinstated, Kyle was reintroducing himself twice, so it just looks a bit odd when you're seeing it in sequence like I did. And we're not really continuing a specific story, it just seems to be standalone episodes with just a loose overall story. But there are some good parts. The returning characters, it's good to see them. You know, Faye Grant, Marc Singer, Michael Ironside, they're not in every episode. Actually, I think Marc Singer might be in every episode. And I heard Michael Ironside was written out. He was offered Top Gun around this time and rightfully accepted it. A huge movie with Jerry Bruckheimer producing. You've got to say yes to that. So we've lost a major character. Robert Englund is still here, and some of the new cast members, they're fine. Kyle, played by Jeff Yagher, he's a very good serviceable character. June Chadwick as Lydia, lots of other returning names and new names. So as I mentioned earlier, this show was cancelled, with 1 episode not filmed. So we've got a cliffhanger, with Carl apparently stowing away onto a visitor spacecraft going back to, I believe it's the home planet rather than the mothership. A little tease for a possible series 2, which of course never happened. And just what I've noticed, leaving a cliffhanger ending like that up in the air seems to be an ongoing trend with US TV shows, doesn't it? Where the network is obliged to push forward the next series, which doesn't always happen. British shows are usually wound up quite neatly, aren't they? It's usually 6 episodes or 12 episodes. There's a beginning and an ending. So when I came to the end of this show, I had one question. Was their planet really in trouble? Did we really have that answered? Did they really have economic problems with lack of water and food? I don't think they did. That's just my opinion. I don't think there was anything wrong with their planet. They're possibly just colonialists, like locusts, where they conquer other planets just because they're there, and then they just move on to the next one. And they've done it a couple of times, and they've made an enemy, this other alien race that we still haven't met. And everything they told us was an absolute pack of lies. Their intentions, their desire to be friends, even down to the disguises they wear, everything. And if it wasn't for their 5th column helping us, we could have possibly been in a lot of trouble. And even now, when I'm giving my thoughts and recollecting how I felt when I first saw it all those years ago, I just keep saying, what a shame Kenneth Johnson was not able to continue this story, especially sending the message out to the enemy of our enemy. Maybe sometime in the future, this proposed story treatment may get looked at again. So to give the series an overall score, I can only give it 1.5 stars. Regrettably, of course. So with that said, there was another V in 2009, not really based on this one. Quite a few episodes were going by and I was liking what was happening and the suspense. Then it just seemed to be not much happening, which was a shame, and of course that show was eventually cancelled as well. I may revisit that as well, but not just yet. That will be for future time. So just to finish off, Warner Home Video have got this listed as horror, which I found slightly odd. I don't think there's really much horror. Possibly the episode I mentioned that they had to withdraw temporarily, and possibly a lot of the lizard effects as well, the unmasking. So apparently Warner Home Video deemed this a horror show. A very light horror in my opinion. So thanks for joining me on this little trip down memory lane. I may revisit V sometime in the future, who knows. And subscribe to my channel and all that. Thanks again. It's a pleasure talking to you. All the best and take care.